All right, folks, time to call up the German bands. Du hast mich? I meant German bands with an N, no D at the end. Anyway. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that has been riling up the community for a while here, and it's probably pretty obvious what it is that I'm going to be talking about since it's on the mind of literally everyone. But I'm going to talk about it in a way that I think that a lot of people are not kind of keeping into perspective, or maybe this will be a way to help put it into perspective for a lot of people that are dealing with this, but is what do you do when your army is OP, is broken, and it's doing really good, and the codex is going to be destroying the game? What do you do when your army gets good? I had a video done and it was ready to go, and then GW came out today with this, so I had to change and refilm an entire video for you because what I was talking about did not necessarily equate and did not translate. There was like some things that I said that anyway, regardless, thanks James for that one. I have to redo a video, but that's fine. But what do you do when your army is really good? It comes out of the box and they're just going to be hitting the ground running, and everyone's complaining about it on the internet, and they're telling you that it's broken and it's OP and it's garbage, and power gamers are the only ones who want to play it. What do you do? And the answer is you play it. A simple answer, and it's a simple answer, but I think it's the truth. It's the crux of what it comes down to, is that you should play it, because at the end of the day, the army that you should play, the game that you should play, the rules that you should play is the one that you want to play. So if your army that you've collected for decades suddenly becomes really good with their new codex, do not feel bad about that. Do not feel bad about that. Play them, enjoy them, and have fun playing them with their new good rules, because you've probably gone through years of them being garbage tier, and suddenly now they're going to be doing well. And you should enjoy that. You should not feel bad about doing well in a game that is meant to be you trying to do well. So play the game the way you want it to be played, and the way that your opponent wants to be played, as long as they understand what's going on. Like if your opponent is bringing just some really fluffy, guard list that he wants to just try out some things, he wants to play with his new models that he just built and painted, and you bring in a cutting edge meta list with the hardest new rule set, then there's a problem. And the problem isn't that your codex is good, it's not that your codex is great, and it's not that your list is bad, like innately bad. It's that you and your opponent didn't communicate properly and did not try to figure out what it is that you were looking to do with the game. And that's where the problem lies. If you are playing a game against someone and they don't understand the idea that you are coming to the game with, then you have a problem. And the problem isn't about the book, the problem isn't about an army, it's not about a unit, it's not about a rule, it's about communication. As long as you have communication, as long as you talk with it, everything should be good. If you're both looking to have hard-nosed lists that you're testing for a tournament that's coming up, or you're at a tournament, then nobody should be getting mad about anyone else's book. That's just the way it goes, is that you play the game and you play it with whatever you have and whatever's presented towards you, as long as you're not trying to cheat the system and you're not trying to find edge ways around rules where it's obviously that that's not what's intended, but you find a way to word lawyer it to make it that way. Then you're causing problems. Then that's the problem, because that's not an issue with the book being strong, that's an issue with you trying to cheat, quite frankly. If you are playing the rules the way they are, and the way that GW has presented them, and that's the way it's understood to be, then there's nothing you should apologize for, ever, for whatever you're playing. If you found a really strong list that you like to play and it's fun for you to play it, enjoy it, and do well. If your opponent gets upset because of the army that you're playing, the game that you're playing, that's on them, because they have to understand that that's what the game's about. They brought a list that they thought would do well. They brought the best rules that they thought they could, or that they wanted to, and they cannot get upset at someone else having the rules that do well, because they had the option to do it themselves. So at the end of the day, as long as there's communication and understanding between you and your opponent, then there should be no problem with bringing an army and bringing a list that does well. You should never have to apologize for the rules that GW has presented you. With that said, you should also understand that GW is now in this era trying to find balance within its game. Reasonable balance. You're never going to find an exact balance. This is not chess where you have the exact same models with the exact same rules doing the exact same thing on the exact same board. There will always be differences. You know, there might be, if you have a shooting army and you go onto a table that has minimal terrain, you're going to do better than someone who's going to come with an assaulty army. But on the other hand, if they have an assaulty army and there's just a ton of terrain on the board that does not have any line of sight, they're going to be in an advantage when they play. That's not because of the rules. That's not because of an army being broken. That's just the situation that you're finding yourself in there. And ideally, you try to find something that fits between both of those, but that doesn't always happen. Same thing with armies, you know? The Tau do really well, but if you find a way to get engaging with them in close combat, they're going to hurt. And that's not because the rules are broken. It's not because they're bad rules written. It's just because that's the way the situation is. If you find the hard counter to them, then they find the hard counter to you, and that's how it goes, back and forth. And that's how the game is played. Right now, honestly, in 9th edition, there is a lot of parity between a lot of the armies. You know, there are armies that struggle, yes, like you don't see, the Guard doing placing at the top of the meta right now, but they're waiting for their book to come out. I'm sure they'll do very well when they do. And that kind of parity where you see a ton of different armies, a ton of different lists performing well at various different tournaments or various different events means that you're getting to a place now where GW is trying to find this parity. And yeah, I think the Votan, the way that the community was speaking, and obviously with the speed at which this change has come, they had an understanding that this might be a problem going forward. But the reality is that they were playtesting them against unnerfed Tyranids, and they were, as they said, unnerfed Eldari. And up against those, the rules that they had and the points that they had probably were not as broken because they were going up against armies that eventually needed to be toned down themselves. So suddenly now when they are put up against these toned down armies, it becomes obvious that the rules would not be well in this current balance the way they have it. And I think they had prepared for some of these changes and they came out with them quick. And it's good to see that quick response because that's kind of what people want. I know that people are complaining now, it's like, oh, my book is not even a week old, or they haven't even come out with the regular book and it's already been just like, it's basically garbage. It's like a few rules have changed. The points they've already said this entire edition would always be changed. And that's something that they were looking to do. And they changed one line in the codex to fix some rules to make it a bit more on par with what's going on. They are still going to be very good. They're still going to be very strong. And they're still going to look super sweet, which is what that model line is doing. They're just not going to be upsetting the entire community with the way the rules are. And I think that's fair. And I think that's the way it should be. And I think that's what they're looking to do. Yes, it would have been ideal if they could have understood that this is what was going to happen before it went to print, before it was put into the box. But the reality of production schedules and the way things happen, this book was sent to print before any of the other balanced data sheets probably were even made, before they were even thought up, before anything was changed with them. And the reality is that that's just the way of the world. And that's the way it works with this game, is that you have to understand that their attempts to make things balanced will always give you a flux of the way the rules and the points are. And that is something that the community has been crying for a long time, for many, many editions, has been looking for GW to respond, to give some kind of clarity, which is why the ITC even began. Why it became was that there was a group of players that were just finally fed up with GW not doing anything and decided to make their own FAQ and their own rules. And then it was in the hands of the people, which personally I don't necessarily have a whole lot of faith in. Putting too many cooks is possibly a problem. I think that the GW has shown that they are willing to make changes. They are willing to do what they need to try to find balance, and I think they have with 9th edition now. The way things are balancing out, I think this edition has certainly been a growing sense. Like, people have had to get used to this new reality of what GW was. They started to listen to people towards the end of 7th edition, not really, to like 8th edition is when they really started to listen to people. They started to make changes. They started to make FAQs. They started to make you know, these changes in points. And then in 9th edition is when it really became full-fledged. And the reality is that this army, this book, was play-tested up against armies that eventually needed to be nerfed themselves. And obviously, if you are going to balance them against something that needed to be balanced, they will have to be balanced themselves. And that's just the way of the reality of the system. And that's kind of what is going to happen with the rest of 9th edition, is that each book is going to come out. It will have been, at this point, World Eaters has already probably gone to print. At this point, Astra Militarum has probably already gone to print. And they've already been balanced against things like the Leagues of Votan. And odds are there are probably going to need to be some changes made to them as well as it goes forward. I think that they have, certain ones have better luck than others, like the Chaos Knights book was very well balanced. I thought it was a very good book. I think the rules were very flavorful and strong but not broken, and I think that's what they want to do going forward, because ideally for them, if they just put out a book, don't have to do any kind of adjustments, that is the best world for them. That is what works for them. If they can make a strong army that does well but does not upset the community, that is what they want to do. And if all they were looking to do was just sell as many as they could and then come out with a balance, they would not have responded this fast with Votan. I know there was a lot of people that were complaining about it, but the reality is that if all they were looking to do was sell models, they would have waited until the whole line was already out and already sold before they made any of these changes. They didn't. They changed it when the limited edition starter box came out. So, you know, if that's all they were looking to do, they would not have made the changes as fast as they did. I think there's an honest and earnest attempt by GW now with this edition to try to find some kind of balance. And this kind of balance that they are doing is meant to create a game that is enjoyable, and that is what it's all about. Which is why at the end of the day, if your army is doing well, enjoy it while it's doing well. Because it will probably be balanced back into the mid-ground, which is what every other army has done. And at that point, it comes down to your list building and your tactical knowledge and know-how and abilities and the luck of the RNG gods of the dice to do well. And that's the way it should be. So enjoy your armies that are doing well. Enjoy your armies that are not doing well. Enjoy the game. And that's what it comes down to. And I think that that going forward, if you don't expect GW to make changes, then I think that you're kind of living in a past version of GW. That's not the GW of today. Today, GW is looking to make changes, looking to make adjustments to try to find some kind of parity between the armies so that you can have some kind of balance between your forces. So that even in a beer and pretzels game with you and your friend in your basement or in your backyard, you could come together with your books and the changes and have a reasonable understanding that your two armies at 2,000 points or whatever points you're playing should have some kind of parity. And that's what they're looking to do, and that's what I think is a noble way to go forward with this. You know, I think that's what they should be doing. I think that's what they should want to do. And to expect them to have play tested every single, thing against every single thing that's been adjusted since they've gone to print is an unreasonable expectation. And you disagree with me. Absolutely. Look at my last video about opinions. You're allowed to have an opinion that differs from mine, and I applaud you for having your own opinion. And do not take what I say as gospel. This is just my opinion. And it's the opinion that I hold based upon the knowledge that I've accrued over the years and what I see looking at the game and what's put in front of me. So feel free to disagree with me and tell me about it down in the comments below. And I'm totally more than happy to hear about it. And we can have a discussion with that. But yes, so I hope that you are all doing well. I'm here battening down the hatches as Hurricane Ian looks to be making a quick visit, at least next door to me here in Savannah. But we should be good. And I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I have been Phil, the Glacial Geek, as always. And until next time, stay safe and have fun.